Welcome to another episode of Your Extraordinary Growth. I'm Michael Buzinski, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with a fellow Air Force veteran, Greg Maude. He served 2 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan during his 6 years of service. After his service, Greg attended the University of Michigan Dearborn and graduated with a Bachelor of Business Administration. In 2018, he founded Penn Ultimate People Consulting, or PPC, a human resource outsourcing company. And today he is going to share with us his entrepreneur story. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Thanks for having me, Michael. I'm super appreciative and grateful for this opportunity.
Hey, no, I appreciate you taking the time out. You're a busy dad. You're an entrepreneur. You're a hiker, a camper, a man after my own heart. I love it. I just got back from Alaska. Now I have graduated to glamping. So I did a fly-in fishing trip right off the bat up north of Anchorage, and we just slayed the sockeye for 3 days and got fed good food, slept in a good, I wouldn't say it the best of beds, but it was a nice cot. It was better than sleeping on the ground, that type of thing. So you're in Michigan. I see that in your background there. A proud Michigonian, as I think you guys call yourselves.
Michigander. But there's one thing, Michael, I need to push back on. I listened to Gino Wickman's Entrepreneurial Elite, and his definition of entrepreneur, I do not fit. So, because I'm a lifestyle.
There you go. That's okay.
But Gino Wickman, the entrepreneurial operating system creator, by his definition, I can't be called an entrepreneur.
This is a true story.
I will take your definition of it and say thank you.
Well, let's go this way. Is your business just you?
It's me and my wife. She's W2.
You and your wife.
CPAs tell me, "Oh, you shouldn't have your wife on payroll," and I'm like, "Thank you. I appreciate your thoughtfulness." And
your wife on payroll. You should have your wife on payroll if she's working in the business.
Yeah, you should or shouldn't.
You should.
I do, exactly.
I have my wife on payroll.
Thank you. And I have clients who have their spouses on payroll as well. And I'm like, why would I not follow their lead? I don't know. I'm not.
You should have your kids on payroll.
Yeah, that's it was a $12,500 deductible.
Yeah, you can pick up your trash and stuff like that once a week, and can pay them $12,000 a year.
Into a 401k and yeah.
Right. Well, you have fun there. Education, the whole. So you were in the Air Force. I was in the Air Force. What did you do in the Air Force, real quick?
I was a 3SO51, which essentially meant I was a personnelist. To translate that to civilian terminology, as I worked in HR.
Okay.
So when you PCS'd, you got a EPR. When you had an unfavorable information file, I was that person. The nice thing about being a E4 Mafia for life is that everybody that came to me needed something from me. I needed absolutely nothing from the colonel, but he needed something from me. So respect went a long way. My old first sergeant would say, treat Airman Maude well, and he'll run through a brick wall. If you don't treat him well, he will become the brick wall.
Nice. There you go. I love that. So that translates right into your business here. But what drove you to starting your own business rather than going working for an HR firm?
Yes, I spent many moons in corporate America. I actually graduated high school early with entrepreneurial dreams. Me, my friend, and his ex-girlfriend were going to start a resort/restaurant business. And when you're 18 with no work experience, no credit, and no funders, necessarily doesn't work out. So there was always the dream of finding something or founding a business. And what happened was I was in the executive MBA program at the University of Michigan. And I looked around me, and a lot of people there own their own business, and they were no smarter, no faster, no stronger. And they weren't better than me. So I was like, if they can do it, so can I. So I had a conversation with my spouse, my wife, Rachel, who I love dearly. And she's a great encourager, great supporter. She's an Enneagram 2 helper. And she was like, if this is your dream, I don't care if we are in a studio apartment. As long as this is what brings you happiness, we can get after it. So once I knew that, I was like, all right, well, let's get after it. And I launched PPC back in 2018.
So is there a particular type of business that you go after versus others?
Yes. when having a target market, you kind of learn through experience. So I really like working with Christian companies because as
Okay.
a disciple of Christ, I love working with those that have the same ethics, morals, values, scruples. Love working with veterans because I'm a veteran and we can speak the language and be direct with each other and know, like, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, Michael, but this is the facts of the business. And so
Right.
then that's really helpful. I've been told that my communication style occasionally is a little too default aggressive. I'm just spitting facts here, Michael, which I know is
Wait,
most.
wait. What's your Enneagram then? Now that you're
I'm an
spitting,
Enneagram 8. I'm a
you're an
challenge.
8?
Yeah. So,
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Enneagram 8 with a wing 7, so I'm a maverick. I like to, be spontaneous,
Gotcha.
fun
I'm an
stuff.
Enneagram 3. Yeah, I'm a
That's
3.
achiever. Yeah.
Achiever, a driven achiever with a wing 2 helper.
Oh, helper.
Yeah,
Hey,
so achiever helper.
yeah.
Go figure that out.
So you're achieving your dreams with the podcast, but you're helping other small businesses like myself by giving us a platform to promote. And
Exactly.
I
And
love
that's
it.
my business is the same way. I own a marketing firm, and that's all we do is help other people be successful in their business. Our success is other people's success. So yeah,
So your
work.
personality is aligning with your business. It works out
There you
well.
go. Yeah.
And then
That's why we've been
finally,
in business for 17 years.
there you go. And then finally, the target market's a family-owned business because there's this benefit brokers called Hylant. My
Uh-huh.
understanding of the way Hylant started, it was just the father, and then eventually his kids grew up, and he hired his kids, and then they scaled the business. And that's kind of the model that I have. Is it's a lifestyle business for now because it won't be like this for long. My oldest is 9. My youngest is 4. There's 4 years, 3 months, 20 days between first birth and last birth. So my wife is a champion. She said she wanted 4 children. I'm goal orientated. So I gave her the 4. Now we're done. We're good to go. And when they're older, hopefully they will want to come into the business. And at that point, we can scale. But as of now, I'm trying to enjoy the time with the family that I have.
So the charter schools for HR and accounting children. I'll do the research for you.
Thank you.
You must plant those seeds early, Greg.
Well, that's why I like working with family businesses so I can see the dysfunction or the function that they can play. And then I can hopefully use their successes and challenges to build this business in the
Well,
future if they want it.
1 out of 4 will probably end up in the business at some point. I think the averages are in your favor. More likely than not, that they're not. I have friends, long time friends, and they've been in business for almost as long as me, and some of them longer than me. And one is a landscaper, and both of his children are working in the business right now. One did not go to college. One is in the middle of college, and she started with a veterinarian degree, not thinking about coming to work with dad. And now she changed her degree because she's like, that's too much math to be a
Yeah.
veterinarian.
Right.
So she is now summer. She goes up during the summers in Alaska to help her dad with that and learn the business. And he's teaching both of the kids the business. So something that he never thought was going to happen is starting to come to fruition. Not that he started the business thinking that way. So you'll be surprised what your kids do, and they're predictably unpredictable.
Amen to that.
So at one point, I remember telling my mother when I was a child that when my parents got divorced, getting off the farm, we lived on a ranch when I was a little kid. And I told my mom, I'm like, you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. And boy, was that untrue. Because a couple of years in the city, I was a city boy. I was like, you can keep the pig poop and the chickens and all that stuff. I'm good.
I have a client that I also grew up with. He's basically my best friend. And what he says is you can take the boy out of the trailer park, but you can't take the trailer park out of the boy. And as somebody who grew up in a trailer park, I 100% align with that. So I think that one's true. Maybe the country, you can definitely, not true. Trailer park, that's in us. That's our DNA.
I love it. Okay, so it's a lifestyle business. You guys have been in business for 5 years. You before the show, you were talking about the fact that like you're not looking to scale this thing right now because time with your family and time in nature are the priority. And so share with the audience how you approach creating this balance because as far as I can tell, it's also provides for the family.
Right.
So there's a balance.
Basically, my the way that I find balance is strong boundaries. And as an Enneagram 8, I'm really good with boundaries. So when business is closed, I do not check my email. I turned off all the notifications. So unless a client texts me, which is really rare, I'm, business hours only is when I'm working within the business. Like deep work, Seth Godin, is he the author of that? So it's like I focus, I do that. I try to maintain my priorities of one, being an honorable disciple of Christ. So Jesus and only Jesus at all times, and make sure I reflect that to my kids. My second pillar of success or goal would be a loved husband and a respected father. So if I'm not with my wife, she doesn't feel the love as somebody who wants quality time as her love language. And then my kids as well, like I need to be in the picture to be respected. As if I'm an absent father, then they may not be respecting. They certainly don't want to be in the business in 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it may be. And then in regards to the next step would be joyful. So when I'm slammed with work and there's like just went through a benefit renewal with one client, which was not favorable at all. 47% increase on medical. That's quite pricey. I just have to James 1:2 choose joy in those times and balance, and know that, hey, 4:30 is going to come Eastern Standard Time, and we can go and be with the family. So being in the moment, that was a struggle, but always knowing what's in the future. And then finally, see a need, meet a need. So if somebody needs help them out. And then the fifth goal, marker of success to keep that balance is to have an annual vacation with family with minimal quarrels. So I have 3 girls and a boy, and they're young and they fight. So like somebody got poked in the eye just before this, and then my daughter DM punched her, and it was a whole thing. Kids fight.
I love it.
I don't know.
I just have my sister.
Those are my guideposts. That's how I find
I love it. Your core values.
Love the way that I define success is the way that I define success. Am I meeting that? That's how I find balance.
Love it. No, it sounds a lot like the core values. I'm a big EOS guy. We just adopted that this year. I'm actually going to have him on my show here, on my other show, the You Are Buzzworthy podcast, here in October. Really excited about talking with him. Learned a lot from him. He's that's like kind of one of my new business gurus, that like just the systems. I love systems. Like I create systems on a regular basis in marketing, but business systems are hard. And so having that there, and EOS is a little different for a 2-person team, but I think that the way that it's structured, I think it sounds like it's working well for you, and that's awesome.
I don't use EOS, but some of my clients use EOS.
Very good.
I don't pay the $25,000 per quarter for an implementer. But yet, hey, the sell is, if you pay me $100,000 and you can make 50 million, isn't that a pretty good investment?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how EOS has been super successful. So that's cool. You're gonna get Gino on there. I'm gonna have to listen to that for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. So that's for those who don't know, the youarebuzzworthy.biz is the podcast URL for the other show that we have. And that's all things, the inner workings of business. And we talk we're actually switching the format here coming up to solo podcasts, with then every once in a while having guests like him. And Mike McCallix was just on my show from Profit First and Clockwork and those types of things. So definitely check that out. When you were starting your business, how did you approach your marketing?
I didn't have an approach for marketing. Essentially,
What was your plan on getting clients then?
So I spoke to a lot of people. I have a pretty vast network. I've volunteered for a lot of Society of Human Resource Management chapters. So I have a really wide network of individuals. And there was a guy that I spoke to who said, you only need 3 things to start a business. 1, your 3 core services. 2, a way to invoice. 3, a business bank account to put the money in when that invoice gets paid. So I took Mike's advice and just got after it and started talking to my network, my natural network, the people that I've worked with and colleagues, and told them what I was doing. And I got my first client, Work Skills, through basically the HR manager is a friend of mine. I always call her my best friend, Kelly. And she was a volunteer as president at the Livingston Area HR Association when I was at the Greater Ann Arbor SHRM, and always been friends. And I said, you got 10 things to do this year. You're going to get 7, maybe 8 done. What are the 3 or 2 things that I can work on and help you out? And that's kind of how the business got started, was just talking to the friends. And then people are always curious, I think. So I post a lot on social media, and they're just curious. And so that was kind of the marketing approach, was just keep posting. Was it quantity over quality? Because
you're Gary Vaynerchuk there.
yeah, well, like Rich Cardona is a guy that I follow, who's been on Gary V's or had Gary V on his podcast, and he talks about, like, think about the amount of posts that happen today. You're like 0.001%. How many people are really going to see it? So even if you get lucky, like, you're gonna. Yeah. So that was kind of it. Local market, people know me, and I just talked to my friends and did networking. And then the pandemic hit, and all the HR folks got laid off. And then the companies were like, we need some HR assistants. And then all of a sudden, it was really fruitful for me.
Right. Yeah. So people didn't realize how many people like, there was a couple quarters right at the beginning that we took a dip. We only lost, out of the whole pandemic, due to the pandemic, I think we lost 1 client to the pandemic. It was a daycare center. They were just closed, and it was like 5 locations, huge organization. And, but they were shut down for so long. They just had to, that was it. It was like, they had to make a decision. They had to cut corners somewhere. And unfortunately, so many people do it in their marketing first, but it is what it is. But then we grew, like, I want to say 13 to 17% in the second year during the pandemic. Yeah, it was amazing. Well, people realized that all of a sudden they couldn't do all the things we were used to doing. I mean, even me, I owned a, creative agency for a long time. The version of my business now is only about 5 years old. I started in 2019. And it's crazy how much you have to change things. So we did everything you were talking about, and we had salespeople on the ground, because what the hardest thing to do is market a marketing firm. This is the hardest thing to do.
That makes sense.
It's so hard because there's so many of them. There's no boundary of entry. It's just like anybody can say they're a marketer. So luckily for me, I've been in the business for a long time, so it's easier for me to get in the door. Plus I've wrote a book or 2 and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that helps.
That's awesome.
So when your wife is working with you part-time, or she have another job, or how's that all work out?
She got 4 kids that she manages during the summer. So yeah, she's stay-at-home mom / director of business development, business operations. I need things, I let her know, and she takes care of me.
Nice.
So
that is awesome.
We'll have a weekly sync where I'll go over previous action items, things that are coming. And it's more of like me working it out and having a conversation, and she pokes holes, and she's like, well, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? And it's really nice having somebody who sometimes gets tensious. Like, don't worry about it. I'm just going to get it done, because I haven't had it figured out yet. It's like, I'm not a process guy at all. Like, I'm more of a gut feeling.
You're the visionary.
Yeah, I don't know about visionary. Maybe.
Well, I mean, there's only two types of leaders in a business. You're a Gino Hickman guy. Come on now, visionary and implementer. Which one is it?
Right. Yeah. Well, I have to do both.
Well, you have to be both. But what are you? So when you say talk about gut, working through your gut is a visionary thing, right? Like, I love processes, but I hate following them.
I like routines. I love routines, like, getting up, reading the Bible, journaling, hitting the gratitude journal, going for a run, eating breakfast, watching service with my wife, and then getting into the emails and those things. So it's all about routine, which I guess could be considered a process, right?
Well, I think that's a routine. I mean, that's a routine, but I'm talking like when you create a process in a business. Like, I am definitely not a line worker. There was a time in between the transition between, I had a creative agency, I had a 13,000 square foot facility, 22 employees, multi-million-dollar venture, right? And I sat in my foyer one day and I was like, I hate my life. Like, I'm not paying myself as much as I should be. I wasn't even paying myself 6 figures at a multi-million-dollar creative agency. Okay. I had people who were making more money in my business than I was, which was stupid, right? And the building was sucking the ever living life out of me. And so when I was down, so I basically shut the building down and said, hey, everybody, we're going to work from home. I'm going to do this completely different, because Einstein says, if doing the same thing over and over again, the same way, expecting different results is the definition of insanity. And I'm like, I can't do it this way anymore. This is not going to work for me. So I said, all right, we're going to do it the opposite way. We're going to do it online. And this is before online was a thing. This was the end of 2018. Nobody had there were people who did it, but it wasn't talked about. Right. You still had Apple and Google and Tesla with these huge campuses. And it was all about like living at work and, just this gray line of like live to work to live type of thing. And all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, no, I'm going to do it different. And there was a time where I thought, well, maybe I'll just do the work myself. And I got about 2 weeks into it. I'm like, hell no. I want to be up here thinking about all these things and creating things and all that stuff. And I need somebody else to do the stuff. Right. And so I have 8 implementers now. They do all this stuff. So I can do this. This is where I get good ideas. I learn from every conversation I have on these podcasts. I learn something about business. I learn something about marketing. I learn something about business leaders, and entrepreneurs. And the more I know about you guys, the better my business is. Just as much as when you're diving into your businesses, the more of those businesses you see work and function, you're going to be able to take the good and the bad and apply it to the next and say, hey, you want to avoid that. And hey, you really want to go towards that. And that just gets better and better and better. So, and you'll see that, at 5 years in, that's awesome that you're able to support your family. That's amazing. But before we get out, because we're running out of time here, I do want to ask you a final question, which is, if you could talk to your prior self 5 years ago, knowing what you know today, what would you tell that self?
Great question. Love the question. Introspective. I probably tell myself to trust your gut, trust the process, know God always provides, and continue with the productive routines that you've implemented. I think that, you've seen the pictures where it's 2 guys that are going like they're digging a hole and somebody gives up and then they're only this far away and the other guy keeps going and he gets the big gold. So that's kind of the way I've looked at it. And I've seen it's like people will work for a corporation 20, 30 years and retire, but yet they won't work on themselves or in their own business for 3 years. And from my business hitting the 5-year point, it seems to be like 3 to 5 years. 5 years for me there, it's really gone up. It's just, so yeah, trust the process, trust your gut, and trust God. He always provides. That's what I would tell myself, which was kind of interesting when I started the business in 2019. Wasn't even a year in the business yet. And I was at Michigan HR Day and somebody came up to me and she was like, hey, and she like grabbed me by my shoulders and she was really intense. And she's like, God told me to tell you to keep going. And I was like, yeah, I know. I was like, that is some creepy stuff. Like, and I didn't believe it for 3-4 years, and then finally I was just like, oh, and I reach out to her now and I'm like, I'm so glad that you said that to me. That was really encouraging because it's true.
Awesome.
It's true.
That's such a good story. I love it. You keep doing it. Yes. And if I could shake you, I would say keep doing it because there's going to be more times. The 5-year mark is a glorious mark. I remember my 5-year mark going, oh my God, I've made it. Oh my God. Like every year I was there going, okay, that marker, if I can get past that marker, I'm okay. If I get past it. No, it's an arbitrary markers. There's always the next challenge and there's the next pandemic and the next recession and the next boom and bust and all the other things. And you just, me and my friends now say we refuse to participate in recessions.
There you go. That's right. Yeah, if you look at the revenue of the business, it's like this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's always going to happen that way. So, Greg, I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. God bless you, and I hope you all the best in your future here. For our listeners, if you enjoyed our conversation today, please remember to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. And if you want your friends to know, we need your help. You need to tell them and give us a rating so other people can find us. Until next time, stay extraordinary.